Hey, welcome back to Tell This Story as promised. It's me again and my good friend AK Dozanti. How you doing today?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. And full disclosure, yes, we did speak offline to everyone who's listening, and we had a full conversation that I wish we had recorded. We're going to try to
As usual.
recreate that as best as we can, but whatever. So I know you're doing great today because you already told me that. But why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about you?
Yeah. I am a first responder wellness coach and specialist, a speaker, new-ish author. And before all that, I started my law enforcement career at just 19 years old, doing undercover online investigations. Um, I during that time was getting my undergrad, went to the academy at just 20. So I started all this stuff really young. And once I got my undergrad, I started as a deputy sheriff, did that for a few years. It was a lot of fun. Um, the bulk of my career was on afternoon shift on road patrol. So we were like high speed, low drag, um, everything in progress. It was a blast, until it wasn't. 2015, I was officer of the year. And by the end of that year, I was completely burned out to the point where I could no longer deny it. I was already, it was a slow burn, but at that point, um, I had to make the decision to leave full time law enforcement because I just wasn't showing up in a way that I felt comfortable for myself. And I didn't feel that I was showing up in the way that I swore to for the people that I worked with and the people that I worked for, which would be the citizens. And so I left, became a criminal court victim advocate, did that for about 5 years. During that time, I took advantage of like normal working hours and got my master's degree in criminology with a concentration in victimology, which is where I started to learn about trauma. And I started to put some pieces together, and things started to fall into place. And during that same time, I was doing a 10-month yoga teacher training where I started to learn about the physiology of the body and how it works under stress and how trauma affects it. And so there were lots of things falling into place at that same time. Um, and in 2020, because, we were in the middle of a pandemic, and um, I was in kind of a toxic work environment as an advocate, I left that job and took a little bit of time off. And in 2021, I figured out what I wanted to be when I grow up and started Lifesaver Wellness and created curriculums, started coaching, training at police departments, fire departments, and gosh, the rest has just been well, it's all been a wild ride, but that's what I've been doing since 2021. So I'm also a wife and a mom of two and a dog mom. So
Boy mom
that's
and a
the
dog mom.
that's yes, that's the nutshell version.
Well, I think it's wonderful, and I really appreciate you being here and sharing bits of your story with our listeners. Huge fan of your work. You know that we've talked several times, and um,
And that's reciprocated, by the
well,
way.
and thank you, and I appreciate that. So one of the things I want to point out is cultural competence,
Yeah.
and you certainly are that. Um, and it's I want to commend you for your insight, uh, young in your career, and your emotional intelligence to be able to step back out of yourself and see that you were not showing up for the best for yourself and for the people around you, for your partners, and for the job that you swore to do. Um, that's very rare. People, I think people would look at that and say you weren't tough enough, or we've all heard the why couldn't you just do this? Why didn't you do that? Why don't you try running? Have a spritz, do a hot bath or whatever the kids are doing nowadays. And I've heard it um, from several people since I've been in this space. To me specifically, 25 years. You didn't do 30? No, I did 25. Like, okay, well, you couldn't do 30. You weren't hard enough. Why don't you try doing some push-ups? Like, bro, I've done all the push-ups. I've done the Ironmans. I've done this. I've done that. You can't outrun it. It's going to grab you. And I tried. I was not emotionally intelligent enough to see the holes in my own game. I just kept going, think that I could beat the burnout. And I was doing it white knuckle and like the caveman that I am. You drive on. The heavier the pack, that's fine. The pack's not going to get lighter. You just get stronger. All the things we say to each other. But I think it's admirable and rare that people can see that in themselves and be damned all the noise, make the best decision for themselves, and have the courage to pivot, but still stay in touch with and help those that help others. So for that, I'm grateful that you're still doing what you're doing. I think it's well, I've started using PG-13 language in my podcast. I think that's fucking awesome. So if we have to beep that out later,
Well,
if I ever get a spot on PBS, I'll beep that out. But so anyway,
there's I got some dust in my eye. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, to be honest, because there was a lot of apprehension. It was not an easy decision. There was a lot of guilt involved, and um, I, for a very long time, felt that I was abandoning my guys. Um, I, because I did hear some of those things. I did hear the, and I wasn't hearing it directly. Nobody had the balls to say it to my face. But it was, through the grapevine, like, oh, well, she just couldn't hack it or whatever. And the truth was, I was running. I was doing CrossFit. I was training Muay Thai. I was doing all of the things. I was strong. Um, and I have the confidence to say I still am. But I was doing all of the right things. It wasn't necessarily the job that broke me down. A lot of it was previous trauma that I didn't recognize to be trauma that I was still carrying with me and I never dealt with. It was shoving down every scene and not talking to anybody about it. I lived alone and I was still very, I mean, I was 21 years old out there arresting people that are two times my age and sometimes two times my size. Um, and then seeing things that I was never prepared to see and experiencing things that I had no idea how they would affect me. A lot of things that I didn't realize until many years later in the undercover online investigations. We were investigating, I don't know if guess you can bleep this out, but child pornography rings, right? I was 19 years old. I was being used as a decoy. I had no idea that that wasn't like normal to see some of
yeah.
these things. And I knew it wasn't typical. I knew most people don't experience that, but I didn't know how it would affect me. So when I started to learn, when I realized that I was just at my capacity, um, and I was upset with myself that it had happened so early in my career, um, I I really had to try to figure it out. I had to figure out what I thought was what was wrong with me. But what I ended up figuring out was, holy shit, I'm human. And this is how the brain works. And this is how the body works. And when you don't deal with these things, they will come out. So I really appreciate you saying that my decision to leave was an emotionally intelligent one because at the time it didn't feel like it. At the time it felt like I was broken. And now I can obviously see that it was all for a bigger purpose. Um,
Yeah.
but I am grateful for that perspective.
No, it's you're stronger than I was. I stuck it out. And even though I knew when I finally came to the realization and it was presented to me at 22 years with the sheriff's office and 27 total years of service between my military and office time, it's like, man, I've got 39 months till I get my pension. So I stuck it out,
Well,
knowing
yeah.
that the
But
slow
yeah.
burn had burnt up. And, I did not have the courage myself to do what you did. And I think that's admirable. And anybody who's saying otherwise, it's either from a position of not understanding um, what it is they're going through themselves. They don't see it themselves, um, or they don't want to believe it. And, and real quick, you actually stole the only question that I had for this entire time. I was thinking about it today. I was like, man, she was a decoy for undercover online investigations at 19. First of all, there should be a policy against that. You're 19.
Looking back, yeah.
That's an issue. And I was like, I wonder if that was like the speed pass to the burnout. It's like, man, I think I stumbled on it because I've never heard anybody ask that question before. I'm going to write that down, and you stole
Yeah.
it from me. So thanks. Thanks for being
Sorry.
self-aware to kill the interview. We're done here.
Sorry. We can wrap
No,
it up. Um,
no, never.
well,
No, that's incredible. But also, what I heard you say in your intro is that you got your master's in criminology and victimology, and you started to get these aha things. Like, wait a second, this has a name. And for me, finding a name to what I was experiencing was empowering because one, it told me this is a thing. It's not just me. Two, this is studied and it's a thing. So there was a cause, which means there is a cure or a way back. And that was empowering in itself. And the other thing I heard you say was started getting your yoga certification. And I have been, my friend Dustin Cooling, who was on an episode a couple episodes back, he did yoga and became a yoga instructor, said it was life changing. And I was
love
like, yeah,
that.
whatever. I'm not wearing those silly pants again in public. But I promised him by the end of the summer I was going to take a yoga class. But when you said that you started learning about the body's physiology and how this is tied in, the chronic pain and all the other things. So what I heard you say indirectly but directly was the things that we experience as first responders and military, basically anybody that carries a high allostatic load, these things that we experience bring on physiological and neurological changes. It's all interconnected. This has nothing to do with strength or power or capacity or white knuckle will. This is just something that our body does. And if we are aware that these things are happening, we can either fix it or we could stop and withdraw ourselves from it completely. And these are choices, and not
But you have
choices
to
to
have the
experience it, but
education.
choices to fix it. Yes, you have to be
Yes.
aware of it, and then to see it yourself. I mean that level of ownership, owning your story, and meeting this face on. I thought about an analogy this morning. I told you I woke up early with thoughts, and I said to myself, you know what, this is the perfect analogy for this. Back when I first started in law enforcement, we taught the Weaver stance or modified Weaver stance, where your body's bladed, and the only person who stands like that is Mr. Weaver. Everything other than what Mr. Weaver does is a modified Weaver stance. But we don't teach that anymore because, well, under the arm, there's no armor there. Our protection is in the front. You face your threat, square your
Mm.
shoulders, plant your feet, lean in, go to work. We do that that's officer safety. That's how we stand. We blade our pistol or our weapon side away from the bad guys. We're always ready, hands in front, to face the threat. We should be attacking everything that we do in that way. And you have to stand square and face these things. So I think awareness and ownership and standing out in front of your own shit is the only way to get through. So I'm giving away bits of your book now. So I'm going to quit monologuing, and I'm going to talk about this thing right here.
My God, it has even
So
more porcupines.
yeah, I have a problem. And the books that I hold up, I have a very colorful bookshelf behind me. There's some of them there with no tabs in there because those books are shit. But I have to keep them on there because the books make me look smart, even though you can't see them. So anyway, I got to tell you, I said when I made fun of you and gave you the earworm of the Hanson on my first debut on the radio show, um, that I believe that Beat the Burnout is the perfect companion book to Dr. Kevin Gilmartin's book, um, Emotional Survival. I read that book for the first time when I was going through my stuff post-retirement, and, I asked Michelle, my wife, you knew that. Other listeners may not know that, but I asked Michelle, I said, "Hey, where's this book been? I could use this like 8 years ago." And she says, "It's been on the bookshelf for the last 7 years." Like, "No, it's not possible." She goes, "Yeah, no, I told you I bought it," and you're like, "I don't need that shit." Yeah, it answered everything from a law enforcement lens, and, I have recommended it to dozens of deputies and first responders who have reached out to me over the last few months, and they all say the same thing. This this is the sorry, I don't wanna cover up your name. This is the perfect book to go along with that, and I wanna brag on this for a second. Um, I ran out of stickies, so I even started tabbing pages, and I've written in the margins and everything else. Um, for anybody who hasn't picked this book up yet, and I'm gonna say this to you, but you already know this book is dense with research. This is not anecdotal. There I was, the bad guy was there, surrounded on all by it's none of that. It is these are your raw experiences, your feelings, your thought, your journey, and there are micro lessons or micro challenges in here. There's a lesson. This is how this applies to people. There are wonderful quotes in here. Um, the research portion in the back showing your citations. This reads like a master's level paper, but not. It starts off, it is a very easy read and a very quick read until you go back through it and start tabbing like I did. And I know I'm droning on about this book, but it seemed to me that the first couple chapters are written for our lizard brain. Like, I'm in a bad place right now. I need to find how to fix myself, but brain not work so good. Even though this is well written and it doesn't read like that, it's simple and digestible for people who brain not work so good. And then as brain starts working better, it gets more and more in depth on the concepts and always ties it right back to what you are feeling now. You're being the reader. Um, it is the perfect crawl, walk, run model of a book. I don't know if that's what you set out to accomplish, but if you did, that's how I've received this book. And it is, I don't even know how much it is on Amazon, but it's worth double the price. I am so happy that I have my own special copy. And I am happy that I was able to turn this into a colorful mess. So if anybody who has not gotten Beat the Burnout yet, please do yourself and anybody who loves you a favor and get it because it is, yeah, it's great stuff. So enough about that. And
There's more dust in my eye.
it's allergy season.
You are
It happens.
I know, yeah. Uh, you are spot on in your assessment of the crawl, walk, run. And it wasn't necessarily like I didn't think about breaking it down like in just those, pieces, but absolutely. I thought about the reader so intentionally every single time I sat down to write. And I thought, because at one point I was given a book called The Many Faces of PTSD. Um, this one right here. I was given this book when I was uh, in the depths of PTSD, and I couldn't, I didn't have the capacity to read it and make sense of it. And I didn't have the bandwidth for my brain to compute what the sentence was trying to say. So I'd have to reread it many times. And so I thought, if somebody's picking this up and they are in the trenches, I want them to be able to just absorb the simple stuff first. Let's let's get all the really easy stuff out of the way. Let's get the awareness out of the way. And then let's start to make some traction. Then let's start to build some momentum. And after you really start picking up what I'm putting down, Now let's add in some emotional intelligence. Let's bring in other factors. Let's really talk about the big picture here. And so, absolute, that was very, very intentional. And my whole idea was for the book from start to finish to take you kind of on the hero's journey and start from the very, very basics and the foundation to places only our imagination can think of and into the future, because I don't want it to stop with the here and now. I want it to be a launching pad, right? Like we gained our momentum, now take it and, you know, take it out into the world and do what you need to do to support your future self better. So
Well,
you're spot on with that. I
no, no,
appreciate
you nailed
all
it.
of that.
You nailed it. Yeah, there were some tabs in here that I wanted to go back to, but I want people to get this book, and you speak about a lot of the stuff from the book and explain the concepts in your the TikToks that you do, your social media and all that stuff. You're very active on social media. We already talked about one of the ones that I saw today, and it was so funny how people perceive what it is we're really saying. Because I was wrong. I was right in conversations we've
Well,
had, but I was wrong in
no,
what you were talking about today.
perception is reality, you know. So
Yeah, it was
so
mine.
we take everything in with our own filter, and our filter is made up of so many different variables. And so when you start to look at, okay, what is my filter doing, what is it allowing in, what is it not allowing in, and where can I make adjustments? I mean, I talk that's something I talk about in the book, is being self-aware to the fact of like, what am I hearing when somebody else is saying XYZ? Am I really hearing XYZ, or am I hearing ABC? And, and what is forming that? So do I need to, go work with a professional to see um, if my perceptions are off, right? Or do I just need to talk about things more and could learn how to have better communication skills, because communication is everything, but it's a learned skill. So yeah, your perception is your reality, and that was right for you, whatever you heard.
Yeah, no, well, it was still an interesting conversation today. But I one of the things that you mentioned. Um, Sorry, I've got like 4 or 5 different thoughts in my head. I'm trying to figure out how to frame them because I don't write stuff down anymore. We just shoot from the hip here.
Yeah.
Um, so we talked earlier before we hit record, and you made a comment, and I wanted to point out. I pointed out to you that that it validated something that I was feeling and had been saying for a year. And I want to throw that out to everybody right now. That when I first started in this space, we should turn this into a drinking game. Anytime you're on a first responder or a veteran podcast and they say this space, you should take a drink, but that's going to lead to
A
widespread
drink
alcoholism.
of, I was gonna say, a drink of water.
Yeah, hydrate. We will be very
Yes.
hydrated wearing diapers.
Gatorade.
Yeah. Uh, but anyway, I said that I felt horribly guilty that when I started in here that I felt that I needed to be a full service stop, not just tell my story and to tell people how I found my way forward, but to be able to help them too. And then I quickly realized that I don't have the training um, to be able to do that. One, I'm not a clinician. Um, I know monkey brain or lizard brain concepts. I get it messed up with amygdala and all that other stuff because, well, that ain't my jam. That's somebody else's job. I know how to break stuff, but I felt bad about that because one, I didn't have the training and I don't have the capacity to be able to go back into my own place where I was to pick someone else up while they're, you know, paralleling of where I was, they're there now. And I felt guilty for not being able to do that for someone. Um, so I felt less than. I felt like I'm only getting half the mission because I could tell you my story and how I did it. I could be a light on the path, but I can't walk the path with you. And I felt bad about that. And Uh, I mentioned that, and you actually mentioned it on your episode with Aaron Jane and Hold Space in the Darkness, that, you've done so much work on yourself. Could you explain that? In case anybody hadn't heard that episode, hear it here first, and then go back and listen to Aaron Jane's.
Yeah, it's it's interesting when you start to gain awareness and then you start to heal and do the work. Um, there's so much of this culture that connects over pain. We we experience so much stress and trauma and painful things together, and so that connects us in a way. Um, so when that happens, healing kind of starts to feel like abandonment. Like, and I kind of think about, the time when I was, excuse me, when I was leaving law enforcement, it felt like abandonment, because I wasn't in the trenches with them. And what I've had to learn, um, we can turn our pain into purpose, but we can't continue to identify with the pain. We have to be able to have the courage and the willingness to outgrow that. And when we are putting ourselves in the position to be visible and talk about these things, whether it's on a podcast or on social media or as a trainer or whatever the case is, we're putting ourselves in a position of authority or visibility within our healing journey. um, we have to at some point set boundaries with the communication that we put out there and the communication that we're willing to receive. And if we take so much time and effort to build skills and build a foundation for peace, at some point we have to be willing to protect that. And so when people come in from the outside and they're not intentionally dragging you down, maybe not intentionally manipulating, but they're trying to like claw at what you have, like, I want that piece, help me up out, and but they're still doing things that they know are poor decisions. They're not willing to help themselves.
Mhm.
At some point you have to be willing to protect your peace so that you can help those who are willing to help themselves. And that is so so difficult to do because we're helpers and we
Yeah,
want to be the ones that are just going to save the world. But uh, we're if you're out here and you're building something meaningful, if you're out here you're building an ark for people to join you, you got to focus, you got to stay focused on the arc.
yeah,
You can't get distracted by everybody that's in the water trying to, ask for every little bit of help. At some point, you know, you got to stay focused. And that's very very hard, and it's honestly it's uncomfortable to talk about. Um because there's a lot of room for people to misunderstand it or judge it because there's very few people who have been there. There's very few people who have built something and are experiencing that level of, trying to protect what you've built. And people will hear that and be very cynical and say, I can already hear, other people's thoughts on it. Like, oh, you just think you're better than everybody. No, no, I have to stay focused on I, what is in my lane. I have to watch my own bobber.
yeah. Or the cynics are thinking, "Oh yeah, you'll help me for 5 grand or $300
Right.
an
Right.
hour." That's
Yeah.
that's I don't anybody I associate with that has put themselves in a position to be out front of any of this stuff. I don't believe I've never heard them say anything like that, and I don't believe they would ever say something like that. I think altruism wins the day, and what it is that we're trying to do here. And you're right. Boundaries were something that in my professional lives I had zero. I had to be the guy answering it. I was answering emails on Christmas Day when I was off. And I was that guy. Left my niece's christening for a bomb call out because I wanted to be the guy in the suit. It was my turn to be number one. These are real life stories, and that's what happens when we don't have boundaries. And not having professional boundaries or even personal boundaries leads to what we're going to talk about next: burnout. Yeah, seamless. I just came up with that. It was
Look at you
clunky, but I'm
go.
going to call it seamless. Yeah, I'm somewhat of a podcaster. I don't want to make a big deal out of it or anything, but burnout. What is burnout for those who are in the middle of it and don't realize it's them?
Yeah. So if you are identifying it is tricky sometimes, but what it looks like is becoming super irritable, uh, daytime fatigue, but not being able to sleep at night. Uh, excuse me. Um, Forgetfulness, distractedness, not feeling like you're really making a difference anymore, decreased sense of accomplishment, um, increased infections and illness, chronic pain, headaches, nausea. I mean, it's starting to sound like a commercial for a prescription or something.
These are the side effects of a prescription.
Right, right. So there's so many ways that it shows up, but it's really wild how our brain can just kind of find a justification for all of them. Like, well, my back hurts because I wear a vest and a gun belt. Okay, cool. Um, I have uh I'm trying to come up with different justifications. I know we're really good at it. Um, I'm tired because I work so hard, or I'm tired because I'm not sleeping. Well, I'm not sleeping because I'm just stressed about work. Whatever the case is, like we just try to justify it. But when you look at the whole big picture, you start to see the main three prongs of burnout are the mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion. The cynicism, which comes out in that skepticism and questioning everybody and not trusting things. Nobody in law enforcement is cynical. Uh, Sarcasm is another way that it
That
comes
was
out.
sarcasm.
And then that low sense of self-efficacy, which is really just a fancy way of saying that you don't feel like you make a difference or an impact anymore. And so when it comes to burning out, oftentimes we look at it and we're like, oh, well, obviously that person's just weak. They can't hack it. But the thing is they're not weak. They have been trying. They've been trying extra hard because they're swimming upstream, and the things that they've tried are not working. That's why they're cynical. And on top of that, when you're doing all of this and your system is under stress, and you're experiencing trauma on top of that, um, you just kind of feel like you're spinning your wheels. You're not really getting anywhere. And every day feels like freaking Groundhog Day. And I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday, though. The beautiful thing about that movie is every day he had an opportunity to learn something new, to do something different. And so often we burn out because we don't do anything different. We do the same shit every single day. And so you have to start moving the needle and shifting and doing different things. But burnout is my assessment of it. It's literally hitting the gas and the brake at the same time. But for first responders or frontline people, eh, when you're under high pressure situations, there's a lot of stress. And the Greek word for stress is strictus, which means a tightening or a narrowing. So you're tightening and narrowing your nervous system and your capacity and your bandwidth. But the interesting thing about that is trauma is a nervous system overwhelm. So you're throwing trauma, you're overwhelming an already tightened nervous
Mhm.
system. So it's going to look like a mushroom cloud, and it's like literally imploding. Um, so once you realize that, you go, oh, okay. Like, you're not like set up for failure. It doesn't mean you're doomed. But what you have to learn how to do is expand your capacity and your bandwidth and learn how to offload the trauma. And there's so many ways to do both of those things. But you have to have the awareness, and it's really hard to have the awareness when you're just so freaking tired. And
Yeah.
you're looking at everything else go and when you're cynical, you just blame everything else outside of you. And there's not a whole lot of ownership or self-leadership. And so when you can flip that, that's when you can start to beat the burnout.
Yeah. I like that. I think if you ask the question, when you get home from work, do you feel like you have the capacity to find out how anybody else's day was? And if they talk about their day and there's something that went sideways in their day, you think to yourself, oh, yeah, well, I did this, this, and this. If you're saying that, you should probably look into the whole burnout thing because you're not processing it at a rate that you should be processing. And again, those are neurological things. You're dealing with a whole bunch of hormones and everything else. And an awareness of that is the first step. And then, of course, owning your symptomology in there. That's just been my experience and what I've read from smart people. Uh, you know, Speaking of reading from smart people, Living Blue by Jason Palomera and Barbara Bell. It's another fantastic book that helped me greatly and is also porcupined pretty well. Um, there's a passage in there that says, cops don't fake sick to go to work or to stay out of work. They fake being okay to go to work. And that's true. I mean, I did it for, wow. I mean, the wheels looking back, the wheels were coming off for a good 15 to 18 years before I had my breakthrough, before I finally had no other choice but to take a knee. And that story's been told. But um, I tried to outrun it. And I think the only reason that I didn't experience the chronic illness is because of my fitness. I mean, I went to the doctor a lot, but rhabdo and back injuries and stupid things for training too hard. But I think that's the only thing that staved off that part of the physiological injury that I was experiencing. Um, it's amazing how all this stuff is tied together, and you just think, oh, okay, it's a one off. No, these things are all connected. They have something to do with one another. Um, so I should ask. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I generally don't look down at my watch, but Jason Palomera just texted me.
You're kidding me. Oh my
No,
God.
no, I wish I was. And next, the lottery numbers for today.
That's
No,
hilarious.
that's crazy. Wow. And
Yeah,
I'm
you
wearing
should
the shirt that
definitely
his
go play the
company,
lottery.
Living Blue Apparel. It's a wonderful T-shirt. Anyway, uh,
That's so funny.
so what's next for AK? I know it's in the vault, but can you maybe an exclusive? I mean, you don't have to let anything
Ugh.
loose. Is it bigger stuff?
Oh.
What's on the horizon for 26?
Well, I'm currently working on a pretty big project that, oh gosh, it's going to be. So you said earlier, beat the burnout is not quick fixes. Um, and that is absolutely true. But there are quick little things that you can do in the moment to shift your energy when you need to. Um, I may or may not be working on a project that's going to give you that in your pocket or your duty bag or glove box or nightstand or wherever you feel like you need it most.
So I'm hearing it's
Um,
going to be small.
ish. Yes.
Okay.
Ish. Small-ish. Yeah, so it's gonna be something that's meant to ride with you and be your backup and your support when you need it. And it's gonna be a lovely companion to beat the burnout, but it'll stand alone on its own as well. So, um, yeah, that's the first time I've mentioned it publicly. So, uh,
It's an exclusive. You heard it here first.
stay tuned. Yes, yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Beat the Burnout, it is a fantastic book. It is a how-to manual, but make no mistake, with anything else, there are no quick fixes and easy buttons. You are going to have you got to put skin in the game. You're going to have to do the work. In fact, the amount of work that I've done on myself and continue to do, I found myself after I got to the point in your book, I was like, okay, now I have to Google cortisol lowering foods because I'm inflamed. I know I have to be
Yeah,
inflamed. Um,
yeah.
So
I did a
I've got
TikTok
to
on that
work
actually.
on
If
that
you
stuff.
scroll
I,
back on my TikTok, I
all right,
did a
now I got to go
whole
back into Tickety Talks again.
it
It's
might be
full
on
of,
LinkedIn too.
okay. Well, no, if I go back into TikTok, it'll be veteran stuff, squirrels, raccoons, how to buy a car, because I've got to do that again here soon because my son is taking my car. But I'll go to the AK stuff and flip the algorithm to more inspirational stuff other than cute animals. Um,
I'll send
so
it to you because there's a whole thing on how to lower your cortisol levels at the grocery store. So there you go.
wow, I, it sounds like another cheat sheet from AK. Something small you can put in your pocket or glove box.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, are there any parting thoughts? Anything for the listeners out there? Well, first, where can they
Ooh.
find you? I know the answer to that, so I always forget to ask.
Yeah. It's akdozanti.com is the easiest place because all my socials are linked up there. Um, all my other information, coaching, speaking engagements, all that stuff. That's the hub. So that's the easiest place to go. But I am on most socials just as AK Dozanti. Um, and I do have just for the listener, Lifesaver Academy is a mobile app. It's free. So if you need to do like a breathing technique or you need some grounding methods or a little bit of meditation, whatever the case is, there's a lot of free stuff on there, a lot of free resources. It's pretty awesome if I do say so myself.
I cannot believe I forgot that. It's actually the first thing that I wrote on my list
I usually
because
forget about it as well.
it's where
So
it all started. It's where it all
I'm
started.
not,
How can I forget
yes,
it?
yes. And I usually forget about it as well. And that's why my pitch is not as smooth on that one. So, we made it
Yeah.
happen though.
Now you're just showing off. I don't even have a pitch. Hey, your website, by the way, I've told you this before, but for anybody out there looking for a website designer, Rob McAbee, Deventive. It is
Seriously.
fantastic. Every bit of it.
Beautiful.
Good dude. He's on mission with us, and he understands what it is, what we're doing, and he did a fantastic job on your website. In fact, when your book broke, I looked at it. I was like, man, I just suck. Like
No, you don't. I just
I don't
happened to hit the lottery.
no, I was like, man, I really got to get on the Rob McAbee train. This is pretty
Yes.
awesome. So
Yeah.
anyway, I will make sure that all your stuff, all your links are in the show notes. I hope everybody enjoyed this. I know I certainly did, and I want to be respectful of your time. We've been at this for a bit, but unfortunately, I stole most of the show by stealing your time talking before we hit record. Uh,
No,
but
you're
yes,
fine.
everybody run out Amazon, your local book retailer, or even go to akdozanti.com. Click on the link to buy the book now. In fact, it shows in your face the first thing. Click here to buy my book. Uh, get on that. Look for what AK has got coming up in 2026. If you are looking for training or coaching to bring to your agency, akdozanti.com. You cannot go wrong. Um, Everything about you is wonderful. I love it. You're doing fantastic work, and I'm
You're
just so
far too
blessed.
kind.
No, no, no. I am very appreciative of people who are making time to do the right things and doing it for the right reasons. And you are certainly leading the charge on that. So with that,
For sure.
Ms. AK, I'll let you get back to your day. Thanks everybody
Thank
for
you.
joining us. And oh yeah, by the way, I forgot, polestarcoffee.com. It is craft roasted beans by the people who put themselves out front, who land on the X to bring you some of the best coffee I've ever had. So polestarcoffee.com, mention this story at checkout and get 10% off. I had to say that. Now my buddy Tyler will stop messing with me. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.